Today at Let's Talk Marketplace, we talked about
the Dutch market and how Amazon the tech holds supremacy. We talk with advertising expert Thomas Philip Bajar, product manager at Channable, about why Bol is so strong in logistics and how it learns from Amazon advertising success.
Have fun listening. Let's Talk Marketplace,
The Marketplace podcast with Ingrid Lommer and Valerie Dichtel.
Hello and welcome to the first deep dive episode of Let's Talk Marketplace in Season 2. We explained last week, last 2 weeks actually, that we have reworked the concept of our show a little bit and moved the discussion of our marketplace news to its own dedicated episode at the beginning of each month, which leaves us a lot more room to dive deeper in our main topics and the stories of our guests in the other episodes. And so today is deep dive time.
Yeah, and I'm looking really forward to it because I enjoyed our last news episode, which we also recorded this week. And yeah, it was really nice to have really time to think about the analysis, to speak about the implications of these news, and to give them more room. And also, we still keep to our new time guidelines, I would say. We try to make it around 30 minutes. Let's see if that works.
Round.
Round.
More a guideline than an actual rule, but we're trying. Yeah. It's not so easy to keep ourselves from talking. But we're trying. Yeah. So let's see if we can keep ourselves in checks again today for our first deep dive, and we will take a detailed look at the marketplace landscape in the Netherlands and about the battle which is going on there between the local hero Bol and the international attacker Amazon. And because I felt we need some local expertise for that discussion, I'm really happy to welcome our guest to the show, Thomas Philip Bajar, product manager at the Dutch marketplace feed management provider Channable. Great to have you, Thomas.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, really nice to have you here, Thomas. And I would say, as usual, let's introduce you before we dive deep more into our session today. So I will ask you some questions. Actually, it's more than 3 I count here.
Yeah, that's true.
So, who are you? Philip,
Who am I? Wow. So as you mentioned, I'm a product manager. I've been a product manager here at Channable for just up to a year now. So I recently relocated to the Netherlands. So I'm, as you can tell by the accent, I'm quite good speaking at English. So from England originally, but relocated about a year ago. 5 years experience in product. I have worked in marketplaces and ads domains for combined 1.5 / 2 years now, whilst also working in healthcare industries as well.
Okay. And what would you say are you doing best in the marketplace business?
Channable or myself?
Yourself.
In terms of ads, so I focus very heavily on ads. So I feel my expertise lie there, which obviously requires quite extensive knowledge of marketplaces, just by the by. That's where my areas of expertise lie.
Nice. Mm-hmm. And how does it come that a Brit moves to a Dutch company?
I'd like to say it was for the job, but it was actually I met a girl out on my holidays and ended up moving to the Netherlands for her. Yeah.
I love this kind of story and reason, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us one fun fact about you, Thomas.
One fun fact. On the spot, it's like I'm being interviewed. I grew up on a kind of farm, and I had at one point my family had 13 horses that we randomly acquired. We didn't purchase them; we just somehow acquired these horses. I don't know how to this day.
I thought that just happened with cats. They just turn up.
Luckily, that would have been even worse. But no, 13 horses.
What, 13 cats are more worse than 13 horses? Really?
Yeah, well, at least the horses live outside, right? The cats kind of want to be inside, and that's no good.
So do you ride as well?
I used to, yeah, when I was very young. But now I picked up other normal sports such as football and golf.
Okay. No animals involved.
No.
I see. Okay. Right. Explain a bit more maybe about Channable first, because I introduced you as a marketplace feed manager provider, which is a bit of a mouthful. So what does Channable actually do for marketplace people?
Yes, so you are right in your definition, but we obviously do a lot more. We tend to have our fingers in a lot more pies these days. Yes. Originally, we started off with feed management, importing products and mapping them out to different marketplaces. But now, as I mentioned, I manage the ads domain along with my colleague Joachim. So we have Google, we have Amazon ads, and we have bol.com ads. We also now have our image editor that we released about a year and a half ago now, which is really growing in traction, which I will also be taking on as a new product as well later on this year. So that's going to be under my domain as well. Okay. We then also have the AI and core capabilities that are new to our platform. Obviously, AI being the new talk of the town over the last couple of years, we have to jump on the trend as well. So we have some really exciting propositions coming from there. And we also have our insights domain, which obviously links heavily to ads and marketplaces. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. And you're a Dutch company, but by now they are active international, is that right?
Yes, international, yeah. Yeah, mm-hmm. So we have a wide range of a support team, really great support team with the different regions all across Europe. And also we have started expanding into the US, not too sure when they started that, but yeah, we have an office over in New York as well.
Mm-hmm. Want to name a few customers, maybe?
In the US, I'm not too learned, so I wouldn't actually be able to from the US.
Some European ones.
In terms of European, we are quite closely with Amazing Marketing, not Amazon Marketing, Amazing. We work closely with them on the ads domain quite heavily.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Then I guess it's great to have you here with that international outlook of a Dutch company, and with yourself as a person who has moved to the Dutch market and so has still outside of you, but also with inside information to say that. So I'm looking forward to your insights on the Dutch market and how Amazon and Bol, which you're both working for, are playing off each other there. So I guess let's dive into that after a very short ad break.
With a turnover of 22.4 billion euros, MediaMarktSaturn is one of Europe's leading consumer electronic retailers. Since launching its marketplace in Germany in 2020, the company has been pursuing an international strategy.
Its range includes around 2 million products in categories such as IT, TV, household, gaming and more, and IT hardware is the top seller, accounting for 40% of sales. The range is continuously being expanded to reach new target groups, and that's where the marketplace comes in.
For retailers, brand trust and high reach are particularly interesting. In Germany alone, MediaMarktSaturn attracts over 100 million monthly visitors. In addition, MediaMarktSaturn offers comprehensive omnichannel integration with its more than 1,000 stores in Europe. With additional services such as easy marketplace integration and individual support, MediaMarktSaturn makes it easier for its approximately 1,600 retailers to do business on marketplaces.
Mm. And MediaMarktSaturn is committed to the goal of internationalization. The platform is already present in Austria, Italy, Spain, and the Netherlands, and has just opened in Belgium as well, which means that retailers there can now also sell via the MediaMarktSaturn marketplace. And Poland is also on the agenda for this spring, and Turkey is about to come this year as well. So this means that many brands and sellers will have another attractive sales channel in neighboring European countries. The contact person for Belgium, we will link them in our show notes, because they have just, as I said, just opened. So maybe check that out if you want to dip your toes into Belgium as well. Okay, from Belgium over to the Netherlands, I guess. So we have been talking about the Dutch market in several ways over the last weeks here at Marketplace Universe, over all our channels. Actually, we introduced the Marketplace Bol in more detail, and we had a great case study about a Danish fashion brand which expanded to the Netherlands via marketplaces. And Valerie also talked about the Netherlands as part of your country quadrant lecture at the e-commerce Berlin Expo. And I feel there was lots of interest from our audience all over the board, a lot from our German audience, but also from other brands and retailers. And I'm happy to see that interest for the market, but as someone who's observed specifically the German e-commerce market for the last 15 years, I often felt that people have been overlooking the Dutch market for a long time, and now they're sort of, I don't know, catching up that this is a really interesting market. Is that just a German perspective, Thomas, or do you think that this interest is actually growing from internationals for the Dutch market?
No, it's definitely not just a German perspective. I mean, the Dutch market is absolutely massive, and it's been growing significantly since the 2010s. To be honest, it was quite an early adopter of the digital industry, so it's moved very quickly and very early as well. So it's definitely not just a German perspective, but I think the fact that you have Amazon making moves. Obviously, Amazon took over Germany and looked to kind of do the same thing with the Netherlands. I think that kind of speaks for itself in terms of what Amazon values as a potential proposition and good money puller basically.
I remember 10 years ago, fun fact, I was had a Dutch ex-boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, but I back then had a boyfriend which was from the Netherlands, and I used to work for Amazon. And then I was like super proud working there, and like I came to the Netherlands and like, hey, and then they like introduced to like family and friends, and then they're like, hey, what you doing? And I was like, I work for Amazon, and then they were like, what's Amazon?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, maybe it's like your bowl, but in Germany. And then they were like, okay, now we get what you're talking about. So that was really 10 years ago. I think that has changed, but yeah.
No, I had a very similar experience because coming from the UK where Amazon kind of, completely took over from, I would say, eBay was kind of the big thing, and then Amazon came out of nowhere, and kind of before you knew it, there's a Amazon logistics warehouse down every motorway, and you see an Amazon Prime vans driving everywhere. So coming over to the Netherlands, I was kind of expecting to maybe see the same thing or similar things, but actually I was quite surprised by how Amazon was still around, but it was nowhere near to the extent that it was in the UK. And then kind of discovering through obviously making new Dutch friends, and everyone's telling me, oh, if you need to buy something online, go to bol.com, or what's bol.com. But no, it's very, very interesting. I think the same experience as well.
Yeah.
When I looked at the figures for the Dutch market, I realized that, okay, Bol is, of course, very, very strong and hugely known all over the Netherlands. But still, the market is very broad there. So Bol does have an important role, but it's nowhere near as overwhelming as it is, for example, for Amazon in Germany, where you can't get around Amazon at all. And I think in the UK, it's similar in a way. So there is this strong local player, but he doesn't account for, I think, more than 30% of the all over e-commerce turnover. So how did that come to pass, that this the Dutch market is so diverse but still so marketplace orientated?
Yeah, I think it kind of stems from government sort of policies early on, back in the sort of start of the millennium, where obviously the internet became a big thing. I think the Dutch government really put a lot of investment into ensuring everyone or the majority have internet access, which I think bred a kind of a environment where these marketplaces could pop up, and there's so many different players for different things. Outside of third-party seller marketplaces, you have a lot of reputable brands that sell online as well and do quite successful. So I think that's kind of why you don't see Bol having the crazy sort of market dominance that Amazon would have in Germany or UK and America per se. And I think as well it kind of comes down to consumer behaviour. I think one thing I notice from a difference between the UK and Dutch in general is just in terms of how people actually buy things, or why people buy things, and where they prefer to buy them. In the UK, I think globalization's quite big. You can sort of be anywhere on a high street in the UK and feel like you're in the same place as you would be if you went to a different city. Whereas if you go around Dutch towns and cities, it's very different. There's a lot more independent stuff going on, and I think that's because the Dutch population kind of prefer that independent style of consumerism. So I think that also plays a massive part as well.
Interesting. I mean, talking about online penetration, I looked that up as well, and the Netherlands have a whopping 95% of the population are using the internet, which if you just think about it, I mean, people have to be, I don't know, they get born and the next thing they do is surf the internet. I mean, 95% is crazy. That's way higher than everywhere else in Europe. by large the highest penetration.
And that doesn't just happen overnight. Obviously, that is a massive government thing. I think, not to mention the UK again, but the UK is still going on about how do we get broadband out to homes where there's sort of in these rural areas.
I know that
and stuff.
Discussion.
It's not something that just happens. It is a massive government initiative, and I think that's why I mentioned it previously, that does have a massive impact on how the market is developed.
Yeah. So, what is Bol for the Dutch online shopper? As Valerie already said, it's very prominent and very active, and people go there. It's like the first go-to point. But what does that mean? So, is that how much of a part of life for Dutch people is Bol?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot, like I mentioned previously, I think a lot of people still buy on the high street, but obviously over and over with the wide range of products you can get online, more people are going online than before. I think in terms of Bol, I think it kind of, as it's been that local player, I think you kind of have that bias from Dutch people to go there first, but also the fact that it's so long-standing and integrated into sort of, I wouldn't say Dutch culture, but just into the way of doing things in terms of, obviously it's owned by the parent company of Albert Heijn. It's therefore integrated into Albert Heijn a little bit with the lockers for delivery systems and things like that. So, I think in terms of that, you kind of have that long-standing, reliable brand and reputable brands, and as a marketplace, it's gotten better since Amazon entered. It was, I wouldn't say it was a sink or swim moment, but it is certainly something that put fire up Bol a little bit to improve their app, improve their website, and a few other services they provided.
Yeah, let's keep with that, because Amazon launched in the Netherlands, I think, in 2020, so already 5 years. If you look at how Amazon is moving, or how fast Amazon is moving in other countries where it started, it doesn't seem to have come very far in these 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's made a dent, but I do think, I think, again, to mention the UK, but this is a very relevant point because I saw it firsthand in the UK. I kind of touched on it earlier with the logistics network that they've set up, and I think that is kind of Amazon's USP in the UK was the logistics setup. I remember the first time I ordered something and it came next day was incredible. As a 15-year-old, I was like, oh, wow. And then by the time I was 22 in London, I was ordering something at 10 a.m. and it was coming by 10 p.m. at night. So I think that was the big thing in the UK. And I don't think they've been able to replicate that in the Netherlands. I think they're still relying very heavily on sort of cross-border delivery systems, with Germany being the hub where the things are stored. So the FBA kind of is still handled over in the German warehouses that they have.
Well, from an American expectation, Netherlands is just around next door from, I don't know, Hamburg maybe, something.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. So I think the dent hasn't been made because I think they haven't kind of made the same moves, which I think they've been restricted on a little bit by Bol's own stance. I think Bol have an extremely good relations with a lot of the logistics companies in the Netherlands, including Post.nl, which I think for some reason gets a lot of bad rep from people I speak to in the Netherlands, but I think it's actually pretty damn good in comparison to what I've used before. So that alone, and then you've got companies like DPD and DHL as well, obviously. So I think Bol have done a very good job in blocking / defending their stance against Amazon when it comes to those logistic things. But as mentioned as well, the supermarket lockers to have your parcels delivered to, that was another big thing that Amazon did in the UK. They went into partnership with a supermarket chain called Morrison's, which is a UK-wide chain. They had grocery deals with them where you'd walk in and you'd see people with Amazon trolleys shopping for other people, and then it gets delivered to the house. But then you also saw the big yellow lockers at the front of the supermarket where the parcels would be delivered to. So even that, Bol have done a very good job at kind of blocking those normal routes that Amazon would come into.
If you speak about advertising on both, like on Amazon compared to Bol, what would you say are the huge differences or similarities?
So similarities is probably easy to start with because it's kind of a small topic. You have sponsored products on Bol and you have sponsored products on Amazon, and they're exactly the same thing. That's one thing I would say Bol maybe not copied, but kind of took inspiration from Amazon was in terms of, okay, we can have our sellers actually advertise their products. We kind of put the sponsored products at the top 3 places, and we use the keyword sort of system and category and product targeting.
Didn't used to be that way before Amazon came, or?
I think it was before Amazon came, but obviously Amazon have been doing this for a very, very long time in other markets. But I think since Amazon came, I believe Bol have put a lot more, there's emphasis into this area, especially with last year, Channable came out with our sponsored product environment for Bol to launch ads from Channable to Bol's environment, and that was based on Bol's own API that they developed. So they were using Mabaya to start with, and last year they brought out their own API with their own environment, basically, which we now plug into.
Okay.
So they're kind of the similarities, but then when you go into the different type of ads that are available, that's pretty much all you can get on Bol when it comes to the products and keywords and category situation. Amazon has, off the top of my head, 3 other types, with being sponsored brands, which is very similar to sponsored products, but it gives you a bit more of a banner, get a bit of branding icons on there. Yeah. And then you have sponsored display, which comes in a bit more of a bigger format with video sort of format into it, so creatives involved. And then you have DSP, which is, I'm not too learned in DSP, but from what I understand about it, it's very much targeted at the bigger side of brands, because it basically is a sort of PMAX style that Google have, where you have ads that are going out to the different Amazon channels, such as Amazon Prime, Amazon Music and things like that. So that's where you probably have the bigger, more corporate brands interested there. So Bol only has sponsored products. They released earlier or late last year, early this year, that they are looking at doing something called sponsored shelves, which is going to be sort of a competing thing for sponsored brands.
Yeah, I read about that. Do you have any timelines on when this is going to happen?
So I've been in contact a little bit, and the sort of general gist is that it's going to be later on this year, Q3, Q4. But there's definitely, from the customer base that we have, I have a few clients that also saw the same thing we did at the Bol events, and they've been asking me regularly for updates, but unfortunately there's just not too much coming out other than Q3, Q4 at the moment.
Okay. And comparing Amazon and Bol for advertising spend or like ROE, like what is more successful, easier to approach? Like what do you need to count in as a budget?
So the budget varies, to be honest, depending on the company and also the sort of philosophy of the company. So you get a lot of resellers that need to focus on low ACoS, which is advertising cost of sales. So you get some companies that are really like, okay, our return on investment needs to be really high and our margin is very small. So we have to set ads that are extremely efficient and not waste any ad spends on ads that aren't just going to return anything, basically, or not high enough margins. So it varies between seller and seller. I mean, I had one funny example where I was interviewing a customer and we were talking about budget, and they kind of just said, we don't really have a budget, so what do we do? And I was like, that took me back a little bit. I was like, sorry, what do you mean you don't have a budget? They were like, oh yeah, we'll have a daily budget, but there's no sort of total budget. And to be honest, even the daily budget's not that not that important for us. So it was kind of a decision like, okay, this company has money to spend and wants to spend it and do some testing. So they were kind of explaining their problem to me, and I was like, yeah, this is a really unique problem. It's normally the other way, where it's like, can you tell us how much our total budget should be and how much our daily budget should be? So yeah, it really does vary. I think I see companies that have 100 total daily budget and then a total budget of 1,000, and then they sort of limit to that 1,000 and then just carry on depending on whether it's been results. You see some companies with just 15 euro budget for the day and things like that. So really does depend. But in terms of industry averages around what people want to be seeing back, I mentioned ACoS earlier. That tends to be the biggest sort of focus on the sort of numbers that come from the ads, and generally people would like below 20. 25 is kind of a good ACOS, but yeah, I mean, I mentioned resellers earlier. There's some resellers I work with that it has to be 10 or 12. But I work with a lot of customers where it's sort of like 15, 16, 18 is also extremely good for them.
Mm-hmm. And is it, I say, like more efficient or cost efficient to do ads in the Netherlands at Bol or at Amazon?
Yeah, it's kind of the same. So because of the sponsored products being almost identical in terms of environment, if you actually look at Channable's tool where we allow you to launch Amazon and Bol ads, they're almost identical in the way they work because the sponsored product environment is extremely similar between both. So I wouldn't say there's a difference in terms of cost. I don't think there's going to be crazy differences in terms of the actual the conversion and things like that to conversions to impressions, basically. There might be differences in total impressions, but the actual end result I don't think will be too different because of just consumer behavior won't change too much between the platforms.
Do you think Bol is worried about what Amazon is doing in the Netherlands?
Worried, I wouldn't say they'd be worried. I think Bol have a very good position, but they would be very silly to not be concerned or not react. You know, I think we, like I mentioned, eBay earlier in the UK. eBay was like the best thing in the world since sliced bread in the UK. Everyone was using it. It was a case of, I can get things for cheap on a bid. Sometimes you win a pair of golf clubs for £100 that are worth 250, things like that. And then, Amazon came along and eBay was kind of to the back seat. It's still around, it still does okay, but it's not anything that it used to be. So Bol has to be wary that could come and happen to such a big giant like Amazon, who, the CEO is, or founder, should I say, is spending money for fun on rocket fuel, basically. So they do have to be slightly concerned in terms of what Amazon are doing. But I think so far, from what I've seen in the year that I've worked at Channable and been in the Netherlands, they're doing an extremely good job at keeping their own position. And I think they're making a lot of the right moves to consolidate that position further as well.
I think one of the moves that they are doing is opening their marketplace a bit more for international retailers and brands. So they have been more open to accept brands from other countries. They are working on, with lifting that complete ban on everyone that was trying to not communicate in Dutch or in French. And so now you can come along with English if you want to. And so they are also approaching international retailers much more openly than they have done before. So from your point of view, if someone is thinking about entering the Dutch market, should they go with Bol or with Amazon?
I think you'll probably have more footfall on Bol, obviously with the larger market share. That kind of goes hand in hand. I think you've probably got better chances of having faster delivery with Bol as well, depending where your products are located. So it would depend, but I think personally I would recommend doing both. I think if you're a brand that has the ability to do both, you have the time, I would recommend covering both bases. I'm a bit of a conservative person in that sense anyway, but I would do a bit of testing to see which one gives you the best results. I know a lot of Dutch brands that use Amazon and not Bol, and that kind of depends a little bit also on the type of product catalogue you have. So there are some variables that will kind of choose which one you go into. But from my point of view, I would recommend all international sellers to definitely consider both at least, and if not, try or test both.
There's some more details on this decision there, because you just touched upon that some categories might be more interesting to go for Amazon, and some might be more interesting if you go for Bol. So can you dive a bit deeper into that?
Yeah, I think Bol's product catalogue has grown since Amazon. That's one of the effects that happened, is that there are definitely more products on Bol and a wider range of products on Bol since Amazon's introduction, because obviously Amazon being such a broad marketplace for all sorts of different products, I think Bol had to kind of ensure that they enabled the same sort of capability. I think there's still maybe some areas where Amazon will kind of excel in terms of categories / differentiate. But I think also the type of products, now this might be a little bit too subjective to myself or personal to myself, because obviously I'm now used to using both marketplaces, but I think for certain products I would be more inclined to search on Amazon than I would for Bol, and that, like I said, that might be down to personal preference only, but so yeah, that would be one of the reasons why I would say there's kind of a bit of a difference there.
What other marketplaces do you think are relevant for the Netherlands?
So it depends on product types. I think for me, Zalando is quite a big one. This is another one that I discovered in the UK. It's all ASOS. I come over to the Netherlands, and all of a sudden ASOS is good, but it's not as good. And then there's Zalando with an app that's pretty good. Deliveries are a bit better and stuff like that. So I think things like Zalando for clothing. I know Kaufland is also from the German market, also making sort of big moves to kind of have some market share of the Dutch markets. But I think also, aside from marketplaces, there are a lot of the independent sort of retailers, such as if you're going for electronics, Coolblue is your place to go. Yes. Things like that. So I think there's a lot of different marketplaces and retailers out there in the market, and like we touched on it earlier, Bol only has the 30% or just over 30% market share, and that's kind of why. But yeah, in terms of the big names, you're looking at Kaufland, Zalando, Coolblue for electronics and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's it with our deep dive on the Netherlands. If you don't have any more questions, Valerie, but because I think we're quite through, and we have another time kept in time. I'm so proud of us. So I think, thank you for your insights and your expertise, Thomas, and for taking us with you on this journey through the Dutch market and looking deeper, especially in the advertising differences between Bol and Amazon, and how this plays out for international sellers. It was a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me on. It's been great.
Right. So, Valerie, what are we doing next time?
So next time we will have a look into Zalando. So I will be the expert guest next time. And I need to prepare it today.
Yes, because there's some figures coming up. Some annual figures, I think. So
the Zalando annual figures are out, and we will speak about that one. So another big important marketplace also for the Netherlands. I would say what I can say so far is that after behind Germany. And Switzerland, Netherlands is the third biggest marketplace or market for Zalando, for example. So, it will be interesting and getting more deep dives because there happened a lot of things last year and this year, I think, as well.
Yeah, especially with Zalando, I heard some pretty much complaints at our last Connect event about that. So looking forward to insights and what Zalando has been doing last year. Right, so make sure to tune in again. Follow us on LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever. Or subscribe to our weekly newsletter, and then you won't miss that. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You listen to Let's Talk Marketplace,
the Marketplace podcast with Ingrid Lommer and Valerie Dichtel.